to be proactive rather than reactive when dealing with my finances. Because I've always got a renovation project on my mind. So I want to know where my money's going so I can channel some of it toward my dream renovations. You might be like me and planning for some renovation of your home, or maybe you just want to think about paying off a debt, building your emergency fund, or saving for a major milestone like buying a home or your kids' education. You can do all of that with Monarch. Monarch is the all-in-one personal finance tool designed to make your life easier. Monarch helps me feel aware and in control of my finances. Head to Monarch and you'll get 50% off your Monarch subscription with the code DECORATING. Unlike most other personal finance apps, Monarch is built to make you proactive, not just reactive. And that's what I really want. Set yourself up for financial success in 2026 with Monarch, the all-in-one tool that makes proactive money management simple all year long. Use code DECORATING at monarch.com for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with the code DECORATING.
From no-go to mojo, get your furniture placement right. Hi, I'm Anita Joyce here with Kelly Wilkness, and this is Decorating Tips and Tricks. Today we are talking all about furniture placement and our best tips to get your room set up as beautifully and as functionally as possible.
Yes, I think today's all about finding the sweet spot. So we want you to find the right places for all your pieces, not only the big things, but the small things, because it's all about scale and balance. And it's all about how all the elements relate to each other. So you want to position things to make the most of how you use the room, how you want to use the room, how you flow in and out of the room, what's the focal point. There's a lot of things to consider. And when you get it right, you are just going to know it. It's just going to feel better. And if it's wrong right now, that might be what you don't like about your space, your room, maybe the whole house, but maybe a particular room. You might not know why you don't like it. And maybe you're blaming it on the color of your sofa or the rug that you bought. But maybe it's more of this. Maybe it's where you're placing the pieces and the fact that they're not relating to each other well and they're not serving you and how you want to use the room.
Well, that's right, Kelly. And I mean, we certainly see this in consults where the furniture is maybe just kind of put in there and the client is kind of thinking, well, this is the way this type of room is generally set up. Maybe there's kind of a chair that's off, not talking to anything else. It's just kind of sitting by itself. It's not, like you said, relating to the rest of the furniture. It's not part of the whole. So it really does need to all work together, and it needs to make, like you said, some visual sense, but also we need to take into account traffic flows through the room. So it's got to work or you're not going to be happy with it.
Yes, the relationship of the pieces, it's going to affect you consciously and subconsciously. So it's going to affect the way you feel about and respond to a room. And here's the great thing is that if you're just moving stuff around, it just costs you a little bit of time. And if you get those pads, or if you just use little dishcloths like I do.
Sliders. Oh my gosh, get some sliders. Don't use her
sliders. That's what they're, not little pads.
Those little cloths, because, your furniture might be scratching your wood through there. I don't know. Some of those are kind of thin. That just scares me.
Right. So we don't want that to happen. We don't want that to be a cost of trying a new way to set up your room.
We're going to link to some sliders, and they make them for carpeted rooms and for wood floors or hard surfaces. So make sure you get the right one for your floors.
So if your room just looks wrong to you, that's pretty obvious. Why is the sofa blocking the doorway? I mean, clearly, no one's doing that and thinking that's the right spot, but maybe for whatever reason, that's what you've got going on. That's extreme, but that's obvious. The room makes you feel uneasy. Well, that's harder to detect.
True.
So that may be caused by the furniture placement or how the pieces are relating or not relating to each other. And then it's an unworkable space. And that really has to do with the traffic flow. So in that case, you really want to think about, how do you go through this room? Do you have to go through this room to get to the kitchen, which, people are going to all the time? Do you have to go through this room to get to your bedroom? Where are you coming and going from that takes you through this space, and how is the best way to navigate through it?
That is very true. And I think one of the biggest things that we see is when people push all the furniture up against the walls. So that's the first rule here is you don't automatically push the furniture up against the walls. There may be a situation where you have to do that because the room is that small, but kind of look at your room and see, does that make sense? Because if it's a big space, this is going to make too large a seating area. So you do need to group furniture into seating areas if it's kind of a living room, especially if it's an open concept. That would be probably one of my first tips to throw out there, is to group them together.
Yes, if you have a large space, don't feel like 2 conversation areas is only for hotels. It might really work in your space. It works in my space. I have a very long, not too wide living room. And so there's no way that I could make the one end feel like it's related to the far other end. So I created 2 areas. One with a traditional sofa and some chairs flanking it, coffee table, some side tables. Then I have sort of this space in the middle where I have 2 rugs overlapping. So they're kind of connecting the space. And then the other area, there's a chaise and a couple of chairs and a bookcase. So it's like you're doing something else over there, but 2 or 3 people, or maybe even more at the far end, could sit there and have a conversation and feel like they were linked, and not that they were needing a megaphone to yell to each other from one end of the room to the other. So that's a specific situation that I have actually heard a number of people having these longer living rooms, maybe because I talk about it and people then say, oh my gosh, I have the same thing. So if you have a space like that, or if it's maybe a home that was built in like the 80s or early 90s, sometimes they're just massive living rooms, family rooms with high ceilings. That's a perfect opportunity to break it up, even if you did back-to-back sofas. But I'm getting far into some very detailed arrangements right now. Just to take a step back before we go any further on the specifics, 3 key factors that will influence the scale and the balance when you're decorating is the size of the space, the sight lines / focal points. So where are you looking? Are you looking through an open archway, doorway to another room? Do you want to make that part of the space in a sense? Is there a fireplace? Are you dealing with a TV in the space? So you've got to think about those things, and then how the elements are going to relate to each other. So I think those are 3 key factors that I would keep in mind when I'm determining the placement of furnishings and decor.
Well, I think you make a good point. And I love how you adjusted your furniture to suit the room, because that's what we need to do. We can't force the room to be something it's not. So I think that's very smart to do that. And, it's interesting. My old house, when you walked in the back door, you walked right by the back of the sofa. And when you were in the kitchen facing the TV, you were facing the back of the sofa. So, that's another thing where it's not up against the wall, but do you really want to be looking at the back of the sofa? You feel like you're in the cheap seats or something. So, one thing I did there was to put a big chest behind the sofa, about the width of the sofa. It's a very large chest, but it worked beautifully because you don't feel like you've got the wrong view. You feel like you're facing the front of something. So, this is just another one of those thoughts to keep in mind is, where are you going to be most of the time? And does it look like you've got a nice view of the furniture in the room?
Yeah, that was a great arrangement that you set up, but that took some thought and probably some time spent looking at the back of the sofa to figure out what you were going to do. Experiment, move things around. If all of your furniture is up against the wall, then pull it away a little bit. Even if you just pull it away 8 to 10 inches, Maybe you can slide a console table behind it. You don't want all the furniture to look like it's being held hostage in the room. And that, that is really good for any type of furniture placement. We angle it. I love an angled rug. Just, I think, creates more of an invitation to come into a space rather than 90-degree angles everywhere. If you can create a little bit of a different positioning, I think it really softens the space. And you can think about color as well. Color can really impact the scale. We've talked about color a lot recently, when we talked about our color, the fear is real episode, and we had a plus episode about color. So that's something that's a related idea, that color can impact the scale. So if you want to make a room feel larger, sort of the general wisdom, it should be a lighter color, maybe stay in the whites or neutrals. If you want to make the room feel like it's a little bit cozier, more enveloping, maybe try the darker color, maybe try the color drenching. If you've got a space that's open concept and high ceilings and those really tall windows with the arches and all that, it's going to be super hard to do a dark color or even a different color, because where do you stop and where do you start it? So, we're giving generalized advice to a whole bunch of people who live in vastly different types of homes, right? So
right.
If this suits you, try it.
I want to go back to what you said about the angling of the rugs. I think that's a great idea. In fact, we have a room, I didn't angle the rug, but I ended up angling the bed. And I've done that a couple of times when the bed just didn't really fit very well in the space. And in the room I'm thinking about now, it was up against the wall. And so because there was a door and it's a small bedroom, there was a door to one side. I couldn't, block the doorway, as you say. So kind of left me with the bed up against the wall. So if someone's sleeping on that side, they're going to have to climb out by the foot of the bed, which was just too much. And making the bed was very hard to do because it's a queen bed and it was up against the wall. So I actually angled the foot, I angled it out where the foot is maybe 2.5 feet, maybe 3 feet away from the wall. And it made all the difference. The room feels more inviting. It feels like the bed is kind of like the main star in the room, and I have some beautiful tapestry bedding on it. But also now it's much easier to make the bed. Now I can actually have 2 people staying in that room and actually making use of the queen size bed. So it really made a difference. And then, I don't have room for a nightstand there. As I mentioned, it's pretty tight. So I hung one of those ceiling lights that hangs by a cord, and it's not wired in, but the switch for it is there by the wall. I have the cord kind of going down the side of the wall. So you just reach over and turn it off so you can turn off your light after you're in bed. So, there are definitely a lot of solutions for these tight spaces.
You're a really good designer. You're great.
Stop it.
No, that's a great solution. And, and a lot of people would just be like, stuck. There's no nightstand. How can I put a lamp? Well, you can think out of the lamp box a little bit and do what Anita did. That's fantastic.
Actually, let me add one other little thing that we did to this room because
don't show off now. Off.
Well, I have a narrow little kind of side table that's really cute. It's blue. It's got scallops, but it's on wheels. And so if you're in the bed, you can wheel it over and use it as a nightstand. But when it's not in use, because that is blocking the door, then you just pull it over to the side and it's out of the way. So it's very functional. I want to
stay in that room when I come visit.
It's cute. Yeah, you'd love it.
When we operated our online store, Bespoke Decor, we ran it on Shopify. Having a small business online offering custom-made decor is challenging in most respects. But what wasn't challenging was working with Shopify. From the thrill of the sound of a sale to all the supportive features, we loved hosting our shop on Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. From household names to brands just getting started. With Shopify, you can get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And what if you get stuck? Well, Shopify's always around to share advice with their award-winning 24/7 customer support. It's time to turn those what-ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/DTT. Go to shopify.com/DTT. That's Shopify, SHOPIFY.com/DTT. Remember that linen wingback bed I told you about from Quince? Well, I just finished off the client's bedroom using Quince's luster velvet draperies. Absolutely stunning. I chose the silver, and it has this pearl essence to it, and it blocks the light, it hangs beautifully, and really finishes off the room in high style. Your home, like my clients, should be a place you actually want to be in. And Quince makes that possible and accessible with their quality items at affordable prices. And how can Quince offer that pricing on their home goods? Well, they work directly with safe, ethical factories and cut out the middleman so you're not paying that retail markup. You're getting quality home upgrades at an affordable price. And everything at Quince is made with natural materials with a timeless style. Transform your space now. Go to quince.com/DTT for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/DTT to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DTT. Oh, that sounds wonderful. I don't want to step on your line there, lady. What's your biggest tip?
Well, I was going to get to that. That is photographing the room. But with this, it's not just photographing the room. I would start with a photo, get your sliders, and start moving things around. And the beauty of this is it's all free. This doesn't cost you anything. So, move some pieces out, move them around. You can try many different configurations. And if you think this is not where it's going to stay, just leave the sliders under the furniture. Now, I have seen people leave the sliders under a year later, and we don't want to do that. But I think you can do it for a few weeks while you're trying to figure out where everything's going if you don't want to lift everything up and off of those sliders. But the beauty of it is you usually can do this just with one person. And believe me, I have. So this is such a great way to do it. So you can try several different configurations, take lots of photos, and then look at your photos and also see how it feels walking through the room. And I think you're going to get a much better design.
Oh, yes. And I would take photos all through the process, like you've suggested to us. If you're rearranging a bookcase, but you like it, but you're just bored of it, take a picture of it as it is, just in case you can't find another arrangement, another styling that you really like. Same thing with the room. I would take a picture as it is now, even if you don't like it, so you can see the progression of the changes that you're making and then decide what is the best. But because you are going to see so much more in that photograph, like Anita has told us over and over again, the best tip ever. So do that for sure when you're working with your furniture and trying to find the right placement. You could sketch, you could use graph paper, you could have a piece of paper and cut little dimensions. This is the longer sofa, this is the little chair. If you don't have any furniture right now, or if maybe you're adding substantial pieces, you could even do that and sort of play around with it a little bit. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly to scale. You'll get the idea. But if you don't have any furniture to move around, that might be the only thing you can do right now. And that is helpful not only for the furniture placement, but also making sure that you're buying the right size items for your space, because you don't want to buy a sofa that's too big. I have had situations where I held my breath to see if something was even going to get into a room.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah. And you also, on the flip side, don't want to buy something that's too small. I once went to look at a house with my mom. This was in Florida. I think we were just kind of poking around. I don't think they were looking to move at that point, but we went into this house and it was beautiful. And inside was the smallest furniture, the lowest furniture. And it was one of these, mid-90s type of homes with the giant ceilings. And it was almost comical. Like we thought, who lives here? Like the seven dwarves? It was very weird. And that really threw the whole thing off. And I'll tell you, because it was my parents' neighborhood, that house sat on the market for the longest time. And I don't think it had anything to do with the house because it was a beautiful house and was in a great location. I think it just felt so weird when you went inside of it because the way that they had improperly scaled the furniture to the space.
This also reminds me of what we've talked about before, balance of the room, making sure it feels balanced. And we have a whole episode on that, which I'll link to. But basically, you don't want all the tall furniture on one side and the short furniture on the other side. You don't want all the one color on one side and a different color on the other side. You want it to feel like it works together. So it really is, there's a balance to it. And then it's helpful to have some symmetry, but not everything symmetrical because then it feels boring and too predictable. So there really is a lot to the layout. And that's why I love the sliders, because you're probably not going to know what's going to work until you try something and realize, wow, this looks beautiful. This is very functional. And you're going to try different things.
Yes. And when you're positioning the furniture, think about what you'll be looking at. I mentioned TV, fireplace, other sight lines to other areas in your home, but also out the windows. If you've got a beautiful window, big, large window, or you've got a pretty garden, or if you're just having a borrowed view of green trees across the street, or that maybe there's a park nearby, or your neighbor is a great gardener, try to take advantage of that with one or more pieces of furniture. Try to position something where if you sat down, you could be looking out the window. We have seen in our consults many times people have a beautiful view and sometimes even a sliding glass door, and they've got a big piece of furniture in front of it.
Yeah.
Like that is usually not the only way you can set up the space. If it's the only way, like in my bedroom, I tried it so many different ways. The best place to put the bed is in front of the front window. Now, I have the benefit of having very tall windows. They're the original to the house, so they're very tall. So I'm not missing a lot of natural light coming in, but the room was just completely awkward if I put the bed on the other side. And, I was on a plane recently, and when I'm on a plane, and sometimes if I, just while you're taxiing or you're doing whatever and you can't be on the internet or have your tray table down or all the things you can't do. And I want to distract myself that I'm going to be going into a can up in the air. I start going through my photos. And the other day I found all these photos of our bedroom when it was gray.
Oh, yes.
And at that time, the bed was on the other side of the room. And if you're with us for a long time, weirdly enough, but you will know that Peter had no bedside table. I made him like a shelf in the wall.
Yes, I remember.
Because I was trying desperately not to have the bed in front of the window. And then I just finally said, nah, this is not working.
Well, but you can also minimize it by having maybe a shorter headboard or an iron one where you can kind of get the light through it. I mean, don't go with a tall headboard, obviously. So there's some things you can do.
Yes, definitely. And I've done those things and it's so much better. And now it's a beautiful Farrow & Ball Sudbury yellow. And I just love the room so much more. I mean, I was like, whoa, wow, look at this progression. So that's touching on so many things that we just discussed. So the furniture placement, taking the photos, right? And then using those photos to help you learn what works best, because you may not remember what it was. And you might not know that you're getting it right until you see what the other options were.
Well, here's another personal example in my house, in the house we're in now, because it's one big space, but it's kind of kitchen, dining room, living room on the far end. And I had the sofa facing the fireplace, which meant the back of the sofa was what you saw if you were sitting at the kitchen table or working in the kitchen, looking past the island. And the living room began to feel like this separate space that I could see, but I couldn't reach. It felt visually blocked because of that sofa. I cannot tell you how it just felt psychologically like it wasn't really a place to go. And then I shifted the sofa where it was facing, it was sideways to the fireplace, and it actually faced the windows out the front of the house. Suddenly you have a beautiful view sitting there, and the fireplace is to your right, but it suddenly felt open to the rest of the room, and it just felt much more inviting, and I'm just so much happier with it the way it is. But again, if you come in the back door, what do you see? The back of the sofa. So I did have to buy a sofa table back there that has all these shelves. Well, I had to. And then that is where I store a lot of my dishes. So, hey, win-win. It worked.
Yeah. No, that's great. And these personal examples, I hope, are very helpful because we're all dealing with this, and particularly if you're moving to a new space and you're getting used to it. But, that being said, it might be the people that have been in a house for a really long time and something just was put someplace. And that's where the sofa goes. But it doesn't have to be where the sofa goes. So try all these things and experiment in your home. And don't limit it just to the larger pieces. Obviously, sofas, coffee tables, accent chairs, bookcases, bigger pieces are going to make more of an impact. But truly, the smaller stuff matters. We don't want you to sweat the small stuff, but we want you to consider it because scale is important for the smaller items as well. Down to the tip where we say don't have so many little things on your mantle. You can even tell what they are, or so many little things on a bookcase. Choose bigger items, fewer items. The size of your pillows have to be commensurate with the size of your sofa. You don't want to put little 16 by 16s or like a weirdly shaped little lumbar. If you've got a bigger sofa, you want to have appropriately sized pillows to really make the most of those design choices. So pillows, art, you don't want to have a little dinky piece of art over a large size sofa. We're going to be talking in an episode coming up about a very important rule in designing that will help you with this too. But for today, let's just think about things that are going to be appropriately sized to what you already have.
Well, and talking about these small things, they can clutter a room. I mean, normally when we talk about clutter, we're talking about the stuff, the little things around the room, the stuff on the furniture. But I've seen rooms where it's full of lots of little pieces of furniture and it ends up cluttering the room. So that's another thing. When you're trying different arrangements and you're moving things around, look at those small pieces and see what it looks like if you take all of those out, and then you can kind of bring them in one at a time and let them audition for their spot in the room and see if you want to keep them, because my guess is you probably don't want as much in the room as you already have.
Remember I told you about laundry sauce? Well, I just tried their new limited release fragrance, Himalayan Cashmere. It is hypoallergenic and features notes of Himalayan musk, white florals, and sweet pear. Does your laundry smell that great? It can with laundry sauce. And if you haven't heard, Laundry Sauce is a premium collection of high-performance detergent pods and other laundry essentials that are infused with bold and sophisticated fragrances crafted by the world's top perfumers. Laundry Sauce's pre-measured pods make life so easy, no guesswork, and no mess like you get with those clunky bottles. Laundry Sauce isn't just about smelling incredible. Its detergents are engineered for performance. And if you're not completely happy with Laundry Sauce, they offer a full money-back guarantee. For a limited time only, our listeners get 20% off your entire order when you use the code DTT at laundrysauce.com. That's 20% off at laundrysauce.com with the promo code DTT. And after you check out, they're going to ask you where you heard about Laundry Sauce, and please let them know that we sent you. So remember, it's only for a limited time, and our listeners will get 20% off their entire order when you use code DTT at laundrysauce.com. That's 20% off at laundrysauce.com with promo code DTT. And do let them know that Decorating Tips and Tricks sent you. And trust us, your laundry's never smelt this good. I have maybe 4 things to say about getting this right, things to consider. So Anita just mentioned, avoid overcrowding. So that was my number 2, but let's make that my number 1 right now. And we'll just continue on that line of thinking. Avoid overcrowding the room. Do an edit, furniture and decor, and think about your ingress and your egress from the room. How you working your way through the room. Do you have to go over an ottoman? Do you have to make sure you don't bunk your leg on the coffee table? And if you're confused as to where to look in the room, if there is not an obvious focal point, then you probably have too many things in that room. And that is not comforting to yourself or visitors. When there's too many things to look at and they're all sort of similarly scaled, I think it's hard to really enjoy the room and feel comfortable in it. So low cost, it's just your time. Take some stuff out and see how that feels. The other thing you really want to consider, and this is probably the most important, is the width, the height, and the length of the room. These are going to be your foundations for your scale and balance. If you've got super high ceilings, that can be really troublesome, but you don't want to ignore it. And like I'm saying about this house that my mom and I had a look at in Florida, where everything was so low to the ground, and then you just had all this empty space that made the room feel very uncomfortable. And you want to consider the architectural elements. So that would be a third thing to consider in getting this furniture placement correct. Are there windows? I hope there are. Are there special doorways? Is there a fireplace? Consider how those permanent, or at least semi-permanent type of architectural details are going to play with your furniture placement. And don't ignore them. Try to highlight them if they're great things like a fireplace or a pretty window. If there is something maybe like a radiator, didn't we had a consult recently, Anita, right, that there was some sort of soffit with a furnace in it, and we were advising the client as to how to sort of minimize that in the space. So if it's something you don't want to see or you don't want to be the focal point, then how can you minimize it? And then the relation of the pieces together and creating a cohesive flow.
I wanted to go back to a point you made earlier about the pieces relating to each other. Not only do they need to be in a grouping together, but they need to be similarly sized. So this is another thing to think about. If you have a big, chunky sofa, you don't want tiny little delicate side tables. You want them to work with the furniture in the room. If you have a big king-size bed, you don't want little delicate end tables or nightstands. You really need to have them sized appropriately, but if you have like a French settee, then by all means go with the Florentine nesting tables or something that's going to mirror that style. So I think you can go with a little different style, but the size needs to work together. And I think that's very important.
Oh yeah. The size of the major piece is really going to dictate what you do with the accent pieces. I think that is an absolute. And then just the rugs, if you're going to have different conversation areas, rugs are a great helper in this regard. The right sized rug can really anchor the area and make it feel like that's a special destination, that these pieces all relate to each other because they're on this raft, so to speak. They're on this rug together, and so that's helping the whole area make sense.
I think well said. I think that kind of summarized it too. I mean, you really need everything to work together, and when it does, it's going to be beautiful and very functional for you.
What's your crush?
Black lentils.
Woo!
That may seem like an odd crush. I know. But, we love to eat at Cava, but now we're out in the country and there really isn't one close by. So I'm trying to come up with a way to have those bowls here. And I just love the way they throw all that stuff in there. And so I usually have quite a variety of things to put in, and you can kind of choose what you want. But I love they have these black lentils. And if you've been to the grocery store looking for them, then you already know they don't sell them in the grocery store. You can get the red ones, maybe. Usually they're the green ones, but black, no. And don't ask me if they taste different. I really don't even know. I just know they look really pretty. So I've been ordering them on Amazon. I found some organic ones. They taste delicious, and I'll link to them.
And lentils have a lot of protein, I think, don't they?
Yes, a lot of protein. So very good for you.
Right. And we all want to be getting a lot of protein. So that's a great idea. I love bowls too. And it's fun just to be like, oh, let's, start with our base and see what we have in the pantry and get it going. So maybe I got to get some black lentils in there too.
Yeah. Well, and boiled eggs. I mean, eggs are so good for you too. So you can pop those in, and then you really don't need to, even if you don't have any chicken or beef or anything on hand, you don't need it.
Excellent idea. My crush is an Etsy shop that does really lovely stationery. I've purchased from her twice now. It's Naomi Lynn, Lin. I'll put the link in the show notes. She makes beautiful stationery, and it's, I believe, a one-woman shop. I got personalized stationery for my girls and myself for Christmas, and then I just did another purchase for Valentine's Day. Every Valentine's Day I do for my aunts and my mom, and I send them a little something off. And so this year I did some beautiful personalized stationery. There were florals, hand done by Naomi, and their names in a lovely script font, and everybody absolutely loved them. The customer service is great. I got them so quickly. There was no sweating it out to get them back out in the mail for Valentine's Day. And she sent a little thank you card that's actually a thank you card you can reuse as your thank you card for purchasing from her. So you get a little bonus thank you card that you can then use in the future with your order. So Naomi Lynn on Etsy, highly recommended. And it's really reasonable too. I mean, for a set of, I think it was maybe 8 or 10 cards, it was like $17. And it's personalized. It was really, really nice gift. Everybody really appreciated them and enjoyed them.
Ooh, that sounds so wonderful. I can't wait to check that link out.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. And remember, we are here to inspire you to create a beautiful home. Until next time, fabulous, fun, wow, even better than I had hoped or expected. These are just a few of the words used to describe a DTT design consult. We've been doing consults for many years, and boy, are we good at it. And people are loving the results of the advice and suggestions that we make for them. It's so easy to schedule a consult with us. Just simply go to our website, decoratingtipsandtricks.com, and click consult. There you'll be led through the very simple process. And sooner than later, you, I, and Anita will be discussing your home in detail. So sign up for a consult today. Let us help you design and decorate the home that you want and deserve. Looking forward to talking to you soon.